WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. I'm back from Houston. Super Bowl 51 was a great ride. You'll hear some segments of that coming up in 2 weeks as I get my down under going here the next couple weeks. It'll be all rock and roll next week. This guy is out in Hollywood where the rock and roll and the actors and the sports and movie stars all come together. He is the tag team partner, Jason Smith, on Fox Sports Radio. They do their thing from La La Land. We welcome back our defending champion, longtime friend, who feels a little forgotten amidst all of our celebrity guests on Super Bowl week. We welcome Michael Harmon back onto the program. He is the Swollen Dome on Twitter, and he is feeling less than harmonious with another Tom Brady Super Bowl. Correct, Harmon?
Well, no, I predicted it before the season, not because it was some grand, slam Roger Goodell down thing, which seemed to be the theme of the parade and all of Boston and every column or 3-minute video bite you heard, just because I thought they had the complete team, which, once again, though it took many turns and great fortune in terms of the comeback, and if you were betting live, you made yourself an absolute fortune. If you were still bullish on them down so huge. But
yeah, what could you have gotten at 28-3 with 4 minutes left to go in the third? Like, seriously, other than people leaving the upper deck of the stadium literally at 28-3, if you're in Vegas, can you walk up to a window and say, I still like the Patriots, what do you got for me, right?
Well, some casinos will still be able to give you some live odds, and most of that is going to be working online and offshore if you really want to go down that route. So,
well, I mean, it was a 99%, win, right? At 28-3 with 4 minutes left to go, you win 99%, especially if you're a good team, as the Falcons are perceived to be, right?
Yeah, that's it, right? It took a lot of things to come together. I don't think New England's defense gets enough credit for just closing out what was unstoppable, and we can always say Kyle Shanahan, who's now already bolted for San Francisco, how horrible a second half he called. That's too obvious, right? That's obvious.
Yeah, you didn't have to get on a plane and go back to Atlanta afterward.
Yeah, no, just keep going straight on, and the fact that Atlanta backfilled that position quickly with Steve Sarkisian is one that, we're just scratching our heads. Okay, how much time did you spend on that and dealing with that? And I still think Art Spander, gets a little bit of love here because that playbook, 30 minutes, I'm not saying anybody got it, but that showed me that nobody should be hiring him as a head coach if he can't keep track of his playbook and his game plan. And certainly in the second half, very few run plays which were effective in the first half. Freeman got off early in first play, 37 yards, and you look at the number of carries, 7 or more yards, were more than half of his touches. If nothing else, you're running clock, particularly after the failed onside kick attempt, which might have been one of the worst onside kick attempts in recent memory. But, you go all the way through. They missed the play on Shea McClellan when he came through. That should have been allowed to stand. That's a point that shouldn't have been on the board. Maybe changes a little bit of the math and how this thing has to play out. But, when it's all said and done, you've got a team that should have been coasting. Instead, defense clamped down. Julio Jones had 1 catch for 27 yards. They ran 46 offensive plays. Eventually, you stretch a game long enough, that's going to come back to bite you.
Well, 99 snaps on the side of the Patriots. We'll never see that in a Super Bowl. Hell, we never see that in a regular season in any sort of lopsided game. It's hard to do.
No, you look at just the way it worked out for New England. Long drives, even when they were fruitless early on in the game. Moving the ball before the Garrett Blount fumbles. When Tom Brady's moving them down, you're expecting at least a 3 on the board. Instead, you got 7 going the other way as Alford sprints out. I think it was presumed by most people sitting there starting to put on their whiteboards that a 7 was going up, and they were all checking their squares to see what was going to happen. Instead, you got 7 going back the other way. So, I mean, you had them moving the ball, and then they had a number of long drives. The longest play of the game was, 28 yards? Otherwise, just taking what the defense could give them, and as much as folks may have mocked the analysis, I saw a number of, current and former players saying, yeah, here's the smart guy analysis of you can't blitz. Well, you couldn't because they went 5 wide on you. Where are you going to bring the extra bodies without allowing a lot of open space for guys to run? And that's exactly what came down to it. When fourth quarter, their tongues were on the ground. You didn't hear the name of Vic Beasley very often in this game either. When he made the play on Marty Bennett, it was very loud where I was watching the game. A lot of conversations, a lot of people worried about still arguing whether there was any pink in Lady Gaga's hair. That was the play he made on Marty Bennett was, I think, the first time you would have heard his name other than the intros and what a force he was during the regular season.
Well, in the case of the fourth quarter, I mean, we'll be talking about this for a long time. I mean, there'll be a lot of scholars in the sport of football discussing how you could possibly lose the game if you're the Falcons. I mean, we could talk about them picking up the pieces over the next 7 months, but I think piece by piece, Ryan getting the strip sack, okay, that's unfortunate, but the way they mismanage the clock, that with a 25-point lead, that you think there's any enemy other than the clock itself, when you're snapping the ball with 14, 16 seconds left to go on play clocks, when you have a live clock and the guy on the other side, the only thing that can save him would be the clock when you've got a 25-point lead.
Right. You've got to manage to the clock, and I know it's been fast-paced all year, score as fast as you can. This is where you have to apply the other part of your football brain and realize that Matt Ryan taking that sack might have been one of the worst things we've seen, for a guy who's normally so calm, cool, collected, or at least that's the reputation. Here in another big game, forgot his down distance and what that meant. That's 3 points taken off the board, or at least a try. And Matt Bryant for the year was almost automatic for anything inside of 50. So when you then take that away, I mean, you're just looking at all these different parts of this game that you look at Atlanta, and as much as, people bemoan the analysis of choking and giving a game away, they did a lot of things wrong. Again, give the New England defense credit. They took away Jones. You didn't have much but one big play from Taylor Gabriel in the second half. Otherwise it was pretty quiet. So, Julio Jones had 4 targets for the game. That's it.
Well, and they were up 28-3 at one point, right? So, I mean, I don't know that you needed to target him, and certainly the one catch he made at the end would have been sort of a showstopper had they kicked the field goal and went up by 11. Instead, it's one of those curse plays we're not going to remember anymore because of what happened and the collapse. The other thing to be said here is on Brady. We talked about Brady all last week. Mike Harmon joining us here from Fox Sports Radio, of course, the Swollen Dome out on Twitter. We talked all week about his greatness and his legacy and, how they probably would win the game, and it would be some pedestrian, 28 of 37 for 254 yards, and they'd run the ball, and somehow the defense would clamp and they'd win. We never talked about a 25-point comeback. We never talked about, 500 yards of passing. We never talked about anything other than just sort of a normal run-of-the-mill. They won't make mistakes. He won't turn the ball. Boy, everything that could have gone wrong, the one thing he had never set up and orchestrated was this kind of a comeback, this Frank Reich type of thing. And now he's got that. That was one pelt on the wall. That was one part of outer space he never went to.
It's interesting in that, doing a pregame show on Fox Sports Radio Sunday morning, myself, legendary Bay Area, more Southern California host, Steve Hartman, and we were talking about that, with all of the greatness and all of the titles and runs to championship games and everything else, that you didn't have a single signature moment, right? This was the 10th comeback win, fourth quarter, et cetera, in playoffs for him. But there wasn't one drive, one sequence.
He didn't have an Elway drive moment. I agree with that. I mean, hey, and as an aside on that, last Friday I was all gussied up for my NFL films. I do my top 10 every year. One of these segments, one of the episodes is top 10 Tom Brady moments, right? And I'll be honest with you, none of them stand out. To me, the Tuck rule, that was a moment, and it was kind of bizarre, and it changed really the course of how football was adjudicated for a period of time, long period of time. And to me, that was a signature moment, and that doesn't, ring of Montana to Taylor or Montana to Clark or, any of the other sort of signature moments. This game provided that, right, for him.
Yeah, this was it. This was your moment. Whether you want to single out the Edelman catch, I know that's the cover of Sports Illustrated, or the plays just checking down to White. I mean, something that Troy Aikman talked about 6 minutes into the game, or 7 minutes into the game, White's first catch. He goes, if they're going to win, this guy's got to play a big role because he changes how they come at you offensively. lo and behold, he's got 14 catch guy and he's running around Disney World when it's all said and done. Just a different blueprint by which to go after teams, spreading the five wide, using the backs primarily as receivers. I think LeGarrette Blount's been hurt for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a note. There were a couple of runs where it just looked like the normal LeGarrette Blount would stick his nose in, particularly that first 3rd and 1. Right, on their opening possession.
Well, I remember the one that was running the Steelers 15 yards backwards, carrying 6 guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen a few of those, and then you've seen some, with this particular, sequence of things, he was on the bench. He was sitting down. You saw a couple of drives where he had, a couple of gains, 3 yards, 5 yards, but nothing explosive, and certainly the short yardage gains were not there. That same tenacity that he normally hits the hole with. So what do? You got Lewis, you got James White, and you start deploying them a bit more, adding out to your wide receivers. So I like the way they changed it. They slowed things down. They took the easy gives and made them work, right? Because whenever you can start spreading and going beyond your set packages, most teams don't have 3 good corners, let alone 5.
He is Mike Harmon. He does sports radio at Fox Sports Radio. You can check him out on the web or out on Twitter at Swollen Dome, and talking all things football in the aftermath of all this. I don't know how the Falcons recover from this, right? I mean, we're all sitting around here trying to figure out our own favorite teams, and you're trying to fix your Bears, and I'm trying to fix my Ravens. There's no thought that the Patriots and I guess the Cowboys will begin next year favored. I don't know that anybody can feel real good about the Falcons after this collapse, and especially not good about Matt Ryan and the decision-making. We picked on Cam Newton last year. Boy, Matt Ryan, when the moment got big, he got small.
Yeah, it shrunk down pretty fast. The early 2017, 2018 Super Bowl odds had the Patriots as the favorite, and then the Falcons, Cowboys, and Packers bound together. To me, the Cowboys are a much better team, so that's some really crazy money coming in on Green Bay and Atlanta. You look at the Patriots with the amount of money they have under the cap, they're going to be able to do whatever they want. And any veteran player that wants to go and try to compete for a title, I would imagine they're going to be able to convince them to take a ride to Boston. Like Martellus Bennett said, the story of Chris Long that rode through this past week. You look at the Falcons, and a lot was made this year about the relationship, the brotherhood, whatever you call it, between Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan. Well, Kyle Shanahan's out of the equation now. What does that mean? When you bring in Steve Sarkisian, who leaves a job after being on it for about 6 weeks, and heads over to Atlanta, do they have that same excitement? Certainly.
Have they read about Sarkisian? I mean, you're out in L.A. I think you know some public secrets about him, right?
Yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes. There's a guy. I mean, his trials, tribulations, his challenges are certainly well documented in terms of his dependence on alcohol and lawsuit against USC. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like he's the guy that's going to fix Matt Ryan, right?
Yeah, I mean, you hope he's gotten the help he needs. He's got the support he needs. But, with Matt Ryan, you had a second half, and how much of that you put on Kyle Shanahan for play calling. If Matt Ryan's your league MVP, Matt Ryan's got to be able to call the shot and say, you know what, screw you, Kyle. We're opting out of this, and we're going back to Devontae Freeman because it works. So, I mean, that was a dynamic that really didn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Whatever's coming in from the sidelines, as the quarterback of a Super Bowl team and the league's MVP, you got to know what's been working. And, when the play call, especially once they started cinching down on the wideouts a bit, weren't going to work. So a little confusing. And now you bring in a different element. Shanahan moves on. How much does that mean? They certainly have a lot of talent. When you look at it top to bottom, with Hooper being healthy, gives them a different dynamic at tight end than the others, because he can stretch the field a bit more. You talk about Gabriel and Julio Jones, assuming everything goes right with his toes being repaired or whatever. The two-headed monster out of the backfield. Mohamed Sanu played a nice role for them, was really good on third downs and red zone situations this year. The personnel is fantastic, but let's see if the play calling, as we know, the NFL defenses usually catch up pretty fast on you. So it'll be a long road back after such a miserable and humiliating to a degree, but certainly depressing loss for Atlanta and their fan base, and for Arthur Blank dancing Arthur Blank. There was no dancing.
Yeah, he went down there to dance. He wound up crying. I mean, speaking of humiliating, the Goodell thing and handing off the trophy, and, I know that plays to the peanut gallery. Goodell made $30 million last year. He gets the last laugh. In the case of Patricia coming off the plane wearing the clown thing, dude, that was not a good look. I mean, you won. I mean, spiking the ball is you won. What more do you want to win?
Yeah, I think it's a bad look for the team. Obviously, it's still a bad look for the commissioner because now you've got teams actively clowning him, literally. The signs at the parade and everything that went through, it's a bad headline. But you know what? They keep lining the coffers for as messy and ugly as these move stories are, and we'll see what happens with Oakland/Vegas/San Diego, that triangle when it's all said and done. But when we're looking at the league's still making a ton of money. Right? They sold advertising at $5 million a pop for Fox for this Super Bowl. And even if people claim the ratings were down a little bit, there's so many ways that this game isn't being captured in terms of how many people are watching it. I know a lot more people that go to bars and restaurants now than they ever did. So that's 40, hundreds in different places that aren't being counted properly. So, you could jack that estimate maybe up another 30 million when it's all said and done. And again, they're still making crazy money compared to everything else that's programmed. They still win time and time again. So Roger Goodell may be a bad mark in terms of the legacy, right? Much like Paul Tagliabue in the Hall of Fame voting about concussions and whatever else.
Well, that's a tough job to be popular in, right?
But since everybody's still getting rich, that's the boss he relates to.
Yeah, don't show me a popular commissioner. Part of what he did to Brady was what he felt was in the best interest of the game, which was you cheated, dude. Right? At the end of the day, say what you want, but, this was the commissioner saying you cheated and you're going to pay for it, period.
Well, Deflategate, we can argue about that, and we have in the past.
But the commissioner felt he cheated, right? At the end of the day, his evidence said, I'm going to go down hard on him because these people cheat. They're not playing by the rules.
Now, just remember, the only thing that was adjudicated was the fact that he had the right to suspend him.
Correct.
Not that anything actually ever transpired that was right. And if deflating footballs was such a big deal, they might have actually tried to do that over the last 18 months. Instead, it was every quarterback came out and talked about wanting a football bigger, softer, whatever the case was, and they realized what a joke it was. Notice they haven't put much emphasis on that in their rules enforcement after getting their win in court.
He is Mike Harmon. He is a Swollen Dome ad on Twitter. Last but not least, because you're in La La Land and in Hollywood and the home of rock and roll out there, of course, that spawned Van Halen amongst many others, we're going to be in Minnesota next year for the Super Bowl. Dude, they got to get back to having bands. I'm not anti-Lady Gaga, and if she wants to play the piano and sing and dance, whatever, but this coming in on a rope and the lip syncing and, it's a Broadway extravaganza. I know it's not made for me in the stadium, which is where I watched it, but they got to get back to, like live music, like a band, not like Broadway, like a band, for me.
No, I'd love to see who that would be. What are you going to go grab?
I don't know, dude. Green Day, Metallica. I don't know, the Foo Fighters. I don't know, Billy Joel, for crying out. Just put a band up there, for crying out loud. That's all I'm asking for.
I'd love to see a little dueling pianos, like they've done on past tours. If you get Elton John and Billy Joel getting after it or something. Maybe Guns N' Roses.
Where's Kenny Chesney? I don't even like country music, but you know what I mean? Guns N' Roses. Now, there's a halftime spectacular. I like that.
Just something a little different. And they're getting along. I got to see the show here in Los Angeles. Had a great time. And then, I had a chance about 2 months ago now. At an event here, they were doing a fundraiser for one of their friends who's fallen ill. Duff McKagan was going to be part of the fundraising bill, so I had a chance to chat with him and talking a little bit about just the gun. I wish I would have brought a recorder. This was just total me as fanboy, but just kind of talking about the history and then talking about the tour. And he goes, "You know what? We're all older. We get it." And it took some a little longer to get it.
Yeah, this is how we feed our family, right? Right.
Just from the realization of, look, it's a different animal. We got only so much of a window to go do this stuff and have fun and see these kind of crowds. So everybody got on board and got after it. So, that they're having fun. They've got new music in the offing here, another leg of the tour. So, for halftime, that's one avenue that hasn't been explored. I mean, I don't know how much more in the classic rock genre you can go, because again, you're broadcasting, you're trying to hit everybody. And even if you're not a fan of Lady Gaga, Katy Perry and such, the spectacle will rope you in for 5 minutes before you go find another beer.
Yeah, you got to do better than Neil Diamond and Rod Stewart at this point, or resurrecting the Who, I guess. Mike Harmon is the Swollen Dome.
Neil Diamond, though, part of the 50th anniversary tour. Come on.
Yeah, I hear you. Far. We've been traveling far.
Well, especially when it'll be 80% Patriots fans again next year as they travel to Minnesota.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America, except the places we don't let them come in. He is Mike Harmon, the Swollen Dome tag team partner of Jason. I made a little political humor there.
I know. I think you
caught that or not.
Fired that one in there.
Yeah,
nicely done.
When they stop letting the Venezuelans in, I guess then that's when I'll have to get involved. But they're not going to do that before the World Baseball Classic, right, Mike?
There you have it. You come out to Los Angeles and catch the finals. Dodger Stadium.
Hey, I saw it last time around. I was out there. I saw Hideo Nomo toss against Roy Oswalt. I saw Ichiro play in front of 45,000 Japanese people at Chavez Ravine. So I saw Brian Roberts go yard off Hideo Nomo. No, actually, it was Dice K that pitched that game. It wasn't Hideo Nomo. It was Dice K.
Sure,
it was Dice K. My bad. Yes.
Hideo.
I had Davey Johnson was managing the Red, White, and Blue that day.
Look at that.
See, little.
Look at you, all your memories. Write another book.
Well, I love Chavez Ravine because I spent a great afternoon there with you melting one day.
Well, we'll have to do that again.
It was an American holiday on the 4th of July, absolutely. Harmon, I love you. I'll be in L.A. for a couple of moments on Thursday. Don't blink or you'll miss me, but you'll probably find me at a Rubio's having a number 3 Especial with a Modelo Especial as well.
Fantastic. Well, safe travels, and if the paths cross here in Los Angeles, we'll raise one of those Modelos together. Otherwise, remember, everything in Australia can kill you.
I love the cartoon on Twitter, by the way. It's a vivid likeness of you, and you're wearing purple. So you look a little bit like a Minnesota Viking fan. You have yellow hair and a purple shirt, but.
Well, it's a subtle hint to my bosses that I need to go to Minnesota to represent. The man-on-the-street stuff that we can do in Minnesota would be insane with my Midwestern roots.
Hey, I might steal that little empty white cartoon bubble because people have thought that I've thought nothing for a long time. I do get that this is where you go to hear what I think on Twitter. So I really like that. I'm going to work on some sort of cartoon likeness of me like that because it looks good. You look very, very studious. You look like a guy I'd want to listen to.
Well, I appreciate that, buddy. I'll make sure to send you the link to where I found the wonderful artist that digitized that for me.
Dominating the ear holes of America, so says his Twitter. Harmon, be good, man. It's great having you on as always.
Be good, brother.
There he goes, Mike Harmon, the Swollen Dome, out on Twitter as well as at Fox Sports Radio. You can find him out at swollendome.com as well. You can find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. I'm going away, but I'll still be here. I'll also be on the internet on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and virtually anywhere else that Down Under takes me. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.